with us today, we have the proprietors of the Bears Quilt Shop. Do you want to try the introductions?
Yes, since it's written on the introduction I saw, I will feel comfortable in saying the bald guy is now. Tell me if I pronounce it correctly. Vivs Laliberte.
Liberty.
Liberty. Okay,
Liberty.
La Liberty. Okay, see, I knew. And the other guy with the beard is Russ Lee. And the other guy with the beard, the dog with the beard.
Dougal has more hair than all of us put together.
That's right. I'll let you introduce the canine.
This is Dougal LeWoofe, and he's the boss around here and our official greeter and doorbell and be underfoot and eat treats.
Mm-hmm.
He also makes sure I take breaks now and then if he needs to come.
Right.
Nice.
Comes over and says it's break time.
So that's basically the mascot of the store, I bet. Dougal is. That's wonderful.
All right. So let's start off with the standard questions. Where are you guys located? Where's your shop?
We're located in Southern California. We're actually about 6 miles from Disneyland in Garden Grove.
Okay.
Oh, magical.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah.
I have a lot of customers that just bring their quilts and say, "Here, just add your magic."
Mm-hmm.
And so how long have you had this quilt shop? How long have each of you been long arming?
I've been sewing and quilting since I was almost 10. So
really?
I'll be 58 in July, or 68 in July. So we're looking at 58 years of sewing and quilting.
Mm-hmm.
I've been long arming for others since late 1999.
Okay.
That's right around the beginning of the long arming wave.
Yeah, the little
We had
short arm.
we had one of Gamel's wooden tables with the short industrial machine.
Yeah.
That's what I started with.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Did you have to drive to the Gamel factory to get it? People tell us that they did.
Actually, no. We acquired that one through a secondhand buy. It turned out that the woman who owned it had knee surgery and wasn't able to continue standing.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And her husband sold it. She had it set up in one of the local fabric shops.
Mm-hmm.
So we met with the fabric shop owner and arranged to purchase the machine. And after we were there for 3 months and started going really well with the business, the owner of the fabric shop decided he was going to sell the business and close.
Mm-hmm.
So we located a new shop and started our own.
Right. He realized that the fabric sales doesn't hold a candle to the quilting business.
Correct.
So, what made you decide to long arm? Because, I mean, obviously, you were looking for a machine maybe, and you found it and purchased it. What made you decide to do that?
Well, I had a career in computers, so I was working full time. My partner at the time had just been laid off, and he also sewed.
Mm-hmm.
He looked at the machine first, but when I saw it, I was like, okay, this takes the strain and stress off my hands, because I would hand quilt.
Hand quilting, for anyone who doesn't know, is extremely slow.
Time consuming.
Yes.
Yeah, and it can be very difficult on the hands for dexterity.
Mm-hmm. I've had people tell me that 1 or 2 quilts a year is full-time hand quilting. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you got your machine and it was set up in a quilt shop, so from the very beginning you were thinking of quilting for customers?
Yes. Slowly at first, not anything fancy. We had I think there's 12 basic patterns that were with the machine.
Paper pantographs.
Paper pantographs. Didn't
Okay.
even have a laser light. We had a little metal pointer that hovered over the table.
Yeah, yeah. Did it have
Um,
stitch regulation?
No, it did not. Not at
Mhm.
all.
Mhm. So
Um,
how many years did you use that machine for?
we used it almost a year.
Hmm.
And then we met Charlie when we opened our new shop. And she's like, I've got the green machine. If you want to buy it, I'll load it in the trailer and bring it out to you. Because she
Okay.
was in New Mexico.
Okay.
So we bought her green machine from New Mexico, less than traditional. And she brought it out. So we have a 1991 Gamble green machine.
And the green machine is one of the historic, one of the,
One of the stages on the way to
yes,
the
yeah.
Before
current.
the classic.
Right.
Yeah, before the classic. It has no rocking finger. It has no computerization to it. Basically, you control the speed with a rheostat dial on the side.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. And that
And
machine is still running today, correct?
yes, it is.
Yep.
Other than a timing issue at the moment, but
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've got to go back later tonight and time it, make sure that because we check the timing on it every now and then, make sure that
Yeah.
it's doing good.
That machine was an important step in the development of the machine that we have today. It was kind of the I don't know if prototype is the right word, but when they went from that machine, which was a welded aluminum body, they wanted to have a cast aluminum body so that each machine would be with interchangeable parts, kind of like the innovation of uh, Ford when they went from all the cars being hand built to now they were going to be mass produced, so that if your starter motor went out, you could just bolt a new starter motor on and it would fit. So when we went to the casting, that was a big part of making the machines all standardized and each one have the same performance as the one before it. But there were several other patented things because people had been relatively happy with the way the machines worked, enough that you could sell lots and lots of them. But with the new machine that we've now had for, I don't know, 25 years or something, the patents on that are the rocking finger is what we call it, but it's a tension stabilizing device that
Yep.
allows the tension to be the same all day long. And then the intermittent upper tension, which tightens as the take-up lever comes up in order to make sure that the stitch finishes properly. And then a variable stroke hopping foot that makes it so that you can use the machine on a variety of different thicknesses of quilt and batting all over the world. Because when you go far north, people use a lot thicker batting than when you go closer to the equator. And so there was a lot of stuff but that green machine was kind of like a proof of concept, and they were really cool for their
It's a
time.
very cool machine, but it took us from a 6-inch pattern width to a 16-inch pattern width
Mm-hmm.
and to a 14-foot table.
Mm-hmm.
We have one of the first steel tables.
Okay.
That's one of the prototypes for today's table with the tilt front.
Mm-hmm. So how did it grow during that time?
We actually went from about 100 quilts a year to almost double, 200 quilts a year.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And then our customers started becoming return customers because we started collecting a lot more pantographs.
Okay.
That's one thing that we pride ourselves on, is making sure that the pantograph or the quilt design goes with the idea and thought that the piecer had for her quilt.
Mm-hmm.
his or her.
Or I'm sorry, his or her quilt.
Yes. I do the same thing too. I mean, so many times I just use the pronoun she, because
Most quilters.
95% of the time, but not to leave the guys out. It's just
Yeah,
that
I
we get
mean,
left
look at the
out.
panel here today.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
get left out.
Hey, yeah, it's all guys here today,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I'm in female mode because I've had female customers all day today.
Yeah, we've got to do everything we can to support the few male quilters that are out there so we can get more male quilters out there.
That's right. That's right.
So was there any particular like a lot of times people will say, if I ask, well, why did you choose the Gamble machine? They'll say, well, I looked at all the different ones and I picked the Gamble. But did you do the same thing, or was this more like it was the machine that presented itself when you were looking?
No, I had looked at other machines and talked with other quilters, but Gamble had somewhat of a reputation at the time. And even though we didn't know that our little 6-inch industrial pass was a Gamble because it was unlabeled, that machine and table would have probably survived a nuclear blast. So we knew going forward, the green machine had the same standard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's going to probably outlive me.
The other thing at the time that was a real selling point for Gamble was we're 10 miles from a dealer that had their own in-house repair guy.
Mm-hmm. That was an important transitional step, I think, for us as we were growing, because there was a period of time there where people's expectations for service were higher than in the past. Because in the past, people would come to the factory, pick up their machine, and then take it back to whatever state they lived in, and their expectation was to have a phone number to call. They were thrilled to have a phone number to call for help and parts sent by mail. And then we had a long period of time where the dealer support in some areas was better than others.
Yeah.
But as we learned over time, what would end up happening is people would purchase machine from a dealer, and our average length of time between when you first buy a machine and when it breaks down the first time is somewhere between 15 years and 25 years. So basically, the first 15 to 25 years, you don't need help, right? You run the machine, you change the needles, you change the check spring when it breaks, you do a few things like that to take care of your machine, which is all in the instruction book. And then when you need your dealer for service, he's retired. And the new dealer is an 8-hour drive away. And so that dealer model was a real important thing for us for a period of time, but then it quickly became obvious that
it lent inconsistency to the whole picture.
Well, the dealer that you bought from wasn't there when you needed them.
Right.
They were there for all the time that you didn't need them.
Yeah.
And that happened to my customers too. I had customers where I lived, and I sold all those people machines, and then I moved to a different job, so.
Yeah, from the green machine, we went, about 6 years? And then
Now, what year was it when you got the green machine at first?
about 2000.
Okay.
Later than that, 2002 maybe.
Okay.
I was already involved.
And what happened after that?
After that, about 6 years after that, we again had a customer come and talk with us. She was thinking of upgrading to a new machine, and she had a Classic Plus that she was looking to sell. And the dealer at the time out here wouldn't take it as a trade-in, suggested that she sell it and then use that money for down payment on a new machine.
What were your thoughts when you heard that? I imagine you started salivating immediately.
I'm looking at it and I'm going, wow.
It was stitch regulated.
It was a
machine.
stitch regulator. It had the Gamble plates. the design plates.
At this point, stitch regulation was a new thing for you, huh?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And it had I'm sorry, the name went right through my head. It had the slide on ruler plate,
Oh, yes, yes.
because on the green machine, I had to make a ruler plate by taking a 13 by 13 plastic ruler and cutting a hole for the needle plate. And
Mhm.
anytime I needed to use a ruler with the green machine, I broke out the duct tape and duct taped my ruler in place.
Mhm. So chances are good that this was a machine that was probably anywhere from a 2002 to 2006, probably is my guess.
It was a retrofit. The machine was called Annie first, and then she became Auto Annie. She was actually our local dealer's first conversion from a classic to a plus.
Ah, okay.
Their it turned out what we bought was their in-house machine. There was somebody in between us, but we bought the actual dealer's original, and it had been run for a while as a classic before it became plus. I have to say, it was definitely a lot less than 15 years before we had to deal service. We did have the guy out here relatively regularly for various issues, up to and including blowing a motherboard at one point. So it was great to have somebody local.
Mhm.
But
Great machine.
Auto Annie, as we call her, was a great machine. We've used her, and we still use her.
Mhm.
Statler Annie.
She's now Statler Annie.
Ah, okay.
34 months ago, we took and traded in an APQS that we had acquired and bought a new Statler and upgraded Auto Annie to a Statler. So we now have
Okay.
2 Statlers and a green
Wow.
machine.
Okay, so that's a big change for you guys. And that was 2.5 years ago.
Yeah,
Actually, should be just about 3.
just about 3 months.
Okay.
Well,
It was 3 years. We got it. We were supposed to get it in June, and we hit right at the transition for you guys
Right,
getting out of the dealers.
right. So you did
there.
it just in time for the pandemic then?
Yeah, we got it right. We got it right.
That's when
And
you
it-
that's when you first began using computerized stitching.
and
Yeah.
our first brand new machine. Everything prior to that, we were getting the hand-me-downs.
yeah. So
All right.
we actually have a 1991, a 2001, and a 2021.
Mm-hmm. All right, and these 3 machines are the backbone of the business if we don't count the dog.
The dog is standing there pushing at me to get them done.
Gotcha.
Like, I need more cookies and tennis balls. You got to do more quilts.
So let's ask a few questions about how you grew your business. What was your strategy? What were the different things that you did to find customers?
The biggest one was hitting the local guilds.
Yeah, when we were first starting out, we went to the local guilds. One of us would join the local guild, become a guild member.
Mm-hmm.
So we always had something to go and share.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of in a lucky boat as far as that goes here in Southern California. Within a 40-mile drive, there are almost 50 quilt guilds.
Wow.
That's a lot.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of people that don't get along with other people.
Well, it's just, I think it's a matter of
Concentration of population.
there's a lot of population, and a lot of people commute for their job, and so they're not willing to commute for their hobbies as much. They want something local.
Hmm.
Although a couple of the guilds are quite huge.
We have a couple of areas out here that are retirement communities. And most people think of a retirement community being 100 or so apartments. these retirement communities are 700 to 800 townhomes, and each one has their own guild.
Oh, okay.
So there's all kinds of different types of guilds around here.
Yeah.
From
That's
little tiny ones at a college to massive 300 member at a meeting guilds.
there are some things like that in Florida and in Arizona too. And I might be leaving off an area maybe that is also like that, but those places, you're right. I mean, people
Areas of high concentration population.
they want to be able to have the guild meeting right there in the community clubhouse.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So going to those guild meetings, that was really important for you. And so your strategy, I guess, was to attend and to bring a quilt and, show and tell, kind of.
Show and tell.
Do some show and tell, and
And then for the local guilds, we still offer a coupon as a raffle gift every month.
Oh,
So they have a gift certificate. We get our name announced at least twice a meeting because somebody gets called up, they won a ticket that gives them a percentage off on quilting, batting, thread
edge to edge quilting.
for edge to edge quilting.
We don't get into custom or semi-custom on the
right.
but
So
And
does this raffle, has this produced a lot of results for you guys?
it's hard to judge. We don't get a ton of the coupons back, but you've got a room of quilters and they hear our name and long arm quilting every month at their meeting.
Hard
And
to
we
put
do
a
that
value
at-
on that, but it's more than zero.
Right.
Yeah.
It ends up in the hindbrain that when I need something quilted, who am I going to think of? Well, there's this one that I kept hearing at the meeting.
then those that bring their coupon to us and we do their quilt, they take it back for show and tell and
we
hold
encourage
it up
them.
and show it to everybody. And then all of a sudden people are going, that's beautiful. I can get mine done like that.
Mm.
We've actually had a couple of guilds that they've had bidding wars over the raffle coupon because
Fantastic.
somebody's got a big quilt. And I've had a couple of my clients say, I had a king size quilt. I wasn't going to quilt it myself. I bid back and forth with this lady because I wanted your coupon because I wanted the discount.
So you guys, are you guys only have exposure in certain quilt guilds, or do you rotate? Because I know it sounds like there's more than you could ever go to in your area.
Yeah, we go to a lot less of them these days. Back pre-pandemic, I used to hit pushing 25 a month. And so I didn't necessarily hit all of them every month, but I would rotate around on some of the others. These days, I don't tend to get to any. I got a dog right before the pandemic, and he grew up as a pandemic baby and has never been alone.
Mhm.
And so it's much harder to try and go to a guild meeting when I can't really leave him alone.
You got the baby.
And you have an established customer base and it grows organically at this point.
Yeah, it grows, and we still send them a lot of them the gift certificates. So again, we're getting announced. We're trying to get better about putting stuff on our Facebook page. Especially when he does something spectacular with the quilting, but also just the edge to edge stuff. Trying to get more in the habit of, I'd love to see practically every quilt end up on our Facebook page, just because people like to look at pretty pictures. And again, they get in the habit of seeing stuff quilted and like how it's turning out. That's
even more than those pretty pictures, they like to see one of those little video clips of the machine actually stitching part of that quilt. It's, as you know, you've graduated. You don't have the Statler stare anymore. But for those who are uninitiated, it's mesmerizing.
That's something where you've got to do some surfing of it, and that'd be good video.
Yeah.
Um,
So, oh, go
I
ahead.
hesitate to just let the machine do it, because then I have people coming in and going, well, I don't want to pay that much because all you're doing is letting the machine stitch it. No, 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 dear. I do a lot more work than just let
That's
the
why
machine.
I immediately went to, no, I don't necessarily want to do just the Statler going by itself, but if he's surfing and
Because
getting
I
stuff
will
to come out.
surf a quilt to make sure that we get the wrinkles and the tucks out. And
that'd be
we work the
not a bad
quilts
idea.
to make them pretty.
Right.
That's just me.
Well, there's
I tell my-
there's a
tell my
reason that
clients.
these training programs, these programs with the videos and the handouts and stuff, you can buy a machine and we'll teach you how to use it. But I mean, it's a decade of learning all the tricks and all the, not that you're not
Absolutely.
able to do a quilt from the first day, because you can, but a matter of fact, Vivs, you were telling about that you're not exactly proud of your first quilt, maybe.
Yeah. And I'm nowhere near at his level. He's at master quilter level. I'm a novice. I do edge to edge work. I don't do any of the semi-custom or anything like that. But the vast majority of the quilts that we get in are just edge to edge. I shouldn't say just edge to edge. They are edge to edge.
Mhm.
And I can do those fine. And I've gotten better at making sure that they come out square at the end and not a little smiley at the end of a quilt or anything like that. But my early stuff didn't necessarily. I pushed, not to say that any quilter's quilt was not square when it came in, but when I had that little bit of excess, I didn't necessarily know what to do with it to get it to look its best. I do better at it now. And there's still places where I would say, hey, Russ, can you give me a clue as to what to do here? Because I want her to be happy with this, or even him to be happy with this when they get home.
And he'll text me now and then and go, help, and I'll go, soup cans.
Soup cans.
Cans on either side to help with the surfing.
To help
Mhm.
with surfing. The added
Oh.
weight on the quilt top helps surf in the excess fabric in the top.
I'll tell you,
Okay.
I haven't used soup cans for years. I like to use
That's the new one for me.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I like to use the 20-ounce soda bottles. You drink the soda out of them and then fill them up 3/4 of the way with water or whatever. They're really solid. The plastic that they're made out of is tough,
Yeah.
and they're the right shape to roll up and down the quilt with the Statler. And if one of those hits the floor, you don't have to worry about breaking your toe. But yeah,
Right.
but that's a time-honored trick for smoothing out the quilt.
Well, guys,
Fill them with beans or bird seed. I've seen them filled with all kinds of things.
I have rice bags. I have long tubes of mattress ticking that's filled with rice that I will use
Wow.
to help when I'm surfing, especially when I'm doing a custom.
I wanted to ask you guys, considering the audience that's watching and looking back on the years that you've had and growing your business, the place you are now versus the place you used to be. Can you, it can be either some incidents or stories that you may remember. Can you think of any of the times that you would consider hard parts of growing a business, and anything that you can share about that with the people watching?
For me, the hardest thing in doing the business was learning to stand up and say no.
Mm.
There are
Elaborate.
times that no is a complete sentence.
Mhm.
I've had ladies bring in quilt tops and want me, and I'm not talking little ones, I'm talking king size, 110 by 110. And they want me to quilt 110 by 110 with 1.5 inch size leaves
Mm.
in 15,000 pieces. And then they want to pay $110.
Mm-mm.
And I've had to say no.
It,
And they look at me and go, why? And I said, because what you're asking me to do is going to take hours upon hours.
Days.
mhm.
And she goes, really? And I said, I'm looking at 40 hours. Would you work 40 hours for $110?
Mhm.
And she said, no. And I said, but you expect me to.
One like that is easier to say no to. I think where a lot of people struggle is it's an edge case. It's where you could almost say yes, but something in the back of your mind is saying, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. And there are times,
And you have to listen to your intuition, don't you?
yes, you have to listen to your gut and intuition. There are times when you look at a quilt and you go, that's not an edge to edge. That's not my base price. I'm going to increase the price because I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, I will negotiate with a client and say, I can do it the way you're requesting it be done at this price, or I have this pattern that's similar that I can do at base price.
A lot of times people come in with an idea in their head and don't necessarily have a concept of what is involved in getting there.
Mhm.
And so, they saw this in a magazine and don't necessarily have a real feel for the scale of the pattern, looking at it in a magazine.
Right.
And
So they have a Saks Fifth Avenue vision in their mind, but a Kmart budget.
Bed Bath and Beyond.
Yeah.
I've actually been told they could get my work at Bed Bath and Beyond.
yeah, we had.
And I've told them,
Yep.
go.
Go get it.
I can buy a bed in a bag for $100, and it comes with this, and this. And I'm like, go for it.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
they'll look at me and go, you're turning down a customer? And I says, go get the $100 bag.
Yeah.
You'll have
Well,
to get another one after you've washed it twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
So-
a world of difference between those things.
So
The other thing
as your business was growing, you had said that around 2020, 2021 in there is when you retrofitted one machine to be a Statler from being a Plus, and then you got another new Statler. Tell me about the decision process there, because that's a big change all at once. What drove that decision for you?
I got another job. As honestly and truly is the biggest thing. I got hired by Ancestry in their pro genealogist division, doing genetic genealogy research for them.
My background is 30 years as a computer programmer, database analyst. So his background is all genetics and science and
Hard sciences, yeah.
And he's got 2 masters.
I have one master's.
Or 1 master.
4 bachelors, 1 master's.
So when he got hired, it was going to be me doing all of the quilting.
Oh.
So there was that, and the simple fact that I was going to have I was going to have the income. I mean, we'd wanted a Statler for a while, but financing it, and there were periods of time. We do this because it's a passion, not necessarily because we're getting rich. And so the idea of financing a Statler was really outside of our scope until I got this new job, which unfortunately only lasted 18 months. And then I got hit in the tech layoffs. They laid off out of 150 people in our division, they laid off 25 of us in a single day. And my dream job went bye-bye. But by then we already had the new Gamble. So, but yeah, having that extra income and knowing that my time couldn't be spent as easily on, and I didn't want everything to land on him, as well as, no offense, but he's getting older and doing all the hand-guided work, and Gambles can move quite smoothly, but they're still heavy machine, and you're doing it 40 plus hours a week, hauling the machine back and forth, and wanted to be able to make life easier on him.
As someone had asked me, have you had any joints replaced yet? And this was when we had decided to order an upgrade. And I said, not yet, but it's getting close.
And he still hasn't had to do that. It's 3 years later, and
20 years of pushing around the machine.
Right.
Some tears on the body.
Right. Well, even if you're not pushing around a machine, I mean, we're all none of us are as young as we were last year.
Yeah.
So it seems to me like you had a real bad break of luck there with the 18 months at that new job. And as far as like payments on your two Statler machines, they typically set those up on a 5-year payment plan, which is, I wish it was a 30-year payment plan like a house, but it's not. It's usually 5 years. So it's a pretty aggressive repayment schedule. How did you handle that?
Luckily we both had access. I dipped into my future inheritance from my parents to finance it, and so repayment is currently on hold until we get to the point of being able to do that. And
the upgrade was monies that I had stashed,
and
so I paid for that outright.
Okay.
Also,
so both machines are technically free and clear.
Gotcha.
Also, he got a good chunk of the money. The person that the namesake of the shop passed away, and so he had some inheritance there that helped get Annie upgraded. So we lucked out. I wish I could say that it's a great solution for everybody. It's not, but we lucked out there. My parents have been very supportive of. They said, you pay us back and you'll get it when we die, or if you don't manage to pay us back, you're just going to inherit less than your brother.
I would say that it's the rare parent. There are some, but it's the rare parent that does not want to see their children pursue their dreams and their passions. Most of the time, the parents would like nothing more than to see their children be successful and happy.
And Bear's Quilt Shop officially opened in 2001, and we were in 2021. It's not like it was something new. It was not. We weren't trying to convince them to put money in a brand new endeavor, or something that they didn't know if we were going to be able to make a go of it or anything like that. We'd been here as an official business for over 20 years. And so it was much more reasonable to say, we're going to keep going at this. We've been doing it for this long. We're going to keep doing it. you're not talking about shelling out a large amount of money, because we bought the 14-foot table and the largest throat that you had available, and hydraulics and a whole shebang. So it wasn't a cheap price tag. Less than it is today, but it's not cheap. We got it right before the price went up. Back in July of 2021, you guys had a big price bump right after we bought, and the local dealer was pushing us, saying, the price is going up if you don't look now. And then right before the whole change in how you dealt with your dealers.
Yeah.
So, how many quilts at this point would you say that you're looking to do on those machines on an annual basis? Do you have a feeling for what you did last year, or what you're on target for this year?
I ran the stats just to give you an idea. We had our machine serviced 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks, 4 weeks ago, and I've already put 2.5 million stitches on the new machine. Auto Annie, I don't run as often because I'm usually doing so much more semi-custom. Our workload shifted. We don't get the 5% semi-custom custom work. We're now getting about 40% semi-custom custom work.
That's a lot.
So the overalls, when I get a quilt where I can let it run for a bit, I will pull up Annie and let her do overalls.
Or I do.
Or he'll do Annie if we get in a bind. We try to maintain a 3-week turnaround, 3 weeks or less turnaround.
Okay.
Which we're pushing right now.
Yeah.
Right now we're probably closer to 4.
At what point of quilts sitting there stacked up waiting to be done? Like, I've had people tell me I'm fine until I get to where I've got 40 quilts on the shelf, and then I just freak out and I just like have to get them done. Like, what's your level of quilts waiting to be done that really makes you anxious?
Before we went Statler, we would tell our customers the end of August, start thinking about your Christmas quilts, because the more quilts we get in for Christmas, the sooner that deadline gets cut off. And 1 year, we actually cut the deadline for Christmas quilts to be done on September 1st, because we had 175 quilts to do by Christmas Eve.
Yeah, so we went through the gauntlet on that, so we don't get as spooked as we used to.
With the Statler, we're now doing much better. We've leveled off since COVID. We dropped down. We lost quite a few of our clientele to COVID. We've done a lot of the families have brought their tops in and the backs in and said, Mom's gone, can you finish these, so that each of the family members has one.
Those quilts are very special.
Yes.
They are very special, and we treat them very special. So right now we're running, since COVID, we're running about 300 to 350 quilts a year.
And 30-40% of that is custom or semi-custom.
Correct. Or
That's a lot.
t-shirt.
Yeah.
And we treat our t-shirt quilts as a semi-custom.
And it's because of he's an artist, and he has the eye for it. We're pushing 6,100 patterns, and we wouldn't have that many if he didn't have the ability to visualize what this is going to look like before he starts laying it out. Obviously, everybody can lay it out in Creative Studio and see what it's going to look like, but when you got 6,100, you can't lay them all out or anything like that. He has an amazing skill at that.
My philosophy with quilting, and it has been since I started with the first quilt is to talk with my customer, my client, and see what their vision is and what their art is supposed to be, so that I can put my art with theirs, because I don't want our art fighting. I want it to be side by side to
Mhm,
make beautiful.
mhm.
And
So
there
do
are
you
people
you
that did-
generally take some time and talk with each customer prior to doing the project?
Yeah,
and they're
our intake process, literally measure the quilt, measure the back, measure the batting, talk with them about what they see for it. We actually have a widescreen TV here in the office, pull up Creative Studio. And I'll pull up a category of patterns and go, if you see something that sparks your interest, go for it. I'm going to pull some up that I think might, and we go from there. And then we actually put in the quilt dimensions and start laying it out on the quilt. So by the time we finish the process, I've either got a very good layout of what I'm going to do semi-custom or custom wise, or what the overall is going to look like on the quilt. We save that project on our intranet, so that when the quilt comes up for quilting, we can pull that project up over on the Statlers and go from there.
yeah, see what exact size did we show them? What was the spacing? Obviously, we've got to lay it out because the real quilt is often slightly different than what we just measured it at sitting here in the lobby.
Right.
But he had a customer come in today. We were supposed to email you guys back something by noon, and he had a customer come in at 11:30 when I was trying to get it out, and she was here for an hour dropping off, I think, just one quilt.
One quilt, but it was her first time, her first quilt, and she didn't understand what she wanted or anything like that. So it took me a little longer to get through the process.
Mhm.
But I will take that time because I want my customers to not only feel special, but I want them to understand this is both of us together.
Mhm.
And my work isn't supposed to outshine yours. I'm a very big believer in, yes, there are times when my quilting is supposed to be fabulous, but it's not supposed to look like somebody puked thread on a quilt.
Which, unfortunately, we've seen some of those.
I've had clients that have brought me back quilts from other quilters and paid us to take it apart and requilt it,
Mhm.
because it literally looked like somebody puked thread on their quilt.
That's always hard, and quite often that really is. It's even hard for the customer to express their disappointment, because
Yep.
when the person who did the quilting shows it to you, there's a lot of kind of internal pressure or social pressure to say, oh well, oh, it's beautiful, well, thank you, well, how much do I owe you, and the whole time they're thinking, oh my gosh, this was not at all what I had in mind, but
Yes.
they pay for it and they leave because they're nice people, and then they cry about it because somebody just ruined this quilt. um do you who is there anybody in particular, or maybe more than one person, that you really want to give credit to for being your cheerleader or your support in this business?
This is one, because I can always call him over to the machine and say, what do you think? Am I overthinking it? Is it too much? I've got a lady who will come in and do binding for us. I
Mm,
consider her an adopted sister,
mhm,
and I can do the same thing with her. Those two are special, but the biggest thing for me are my customers.
mhm.
When a customer brings in a quilt and says, just do something with it, it's ugly, I'm going to give it to charity.
Also, who's Joyce and who's your
Oh,
teachers? You can't
yeah.
bring them up.
And then there's the teachers that I've had. Joyce Lundragan, Joan Knight, They're
Mhm.
they're both excellent. The Gamble educators, uh, well worth the time to spend one-on-one,
Mm-hmm.
because I got information on problems I was having with Creative Studio, and it was something that I kept hitting the wall with, and I couldn't get past it on a quilt. So I did a one-on-one session, and boom, figured out how to get past it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Not everybody knows. I don't want to make it a commercial, but not everybody knows that you can get an hour with a teacher. I think it's $59 or
Yeah,
something.
59.
And it is remarkable how many different people have told me, uh, about a situation that they were, maybe a quilt that they didn't know how to approach it, or a technique that they had not figured out, and they buy an hour of somebody's time, and it is crazy where you get, with somebody who really knows their stuff, they can help you a lot in an hour.
Yep.
I would
Make a list
highly,
before you hire them, and
yeah,
I've got these 10 things that I want to know, and you can get through all 10 in that hour because they're that good.
I
Mhm.
would highly recommend to anybody getting a machine, get the Creative Studio software on a laptop or on a computer, not attached to the stitcher. Do it in standalone mode the minute you've ordered the machine,
And play.
and play with it. Use all the videos. Open the help book and go through all the videos in the help book.
Mhm.
And then go outside of that. And I'm not trying to plug anybody else, but there are clubs out there that will help you build your skills using the
Mhm.
software.
Absolutely.
I'll plug them. Joyce and Joan. What's the name of their companies?
Northwest Needle.
I think it's called a skill builder.
They have
Skill
a
Builder.
skill builder club, and they
One
have
of
the
the things that's
all-in-one.
really helpful in that
Yeah.
one is that you get a project, and a lot of times a good way to learn is on a project, and it's an excellent way to increase your comfort level with all the different techniques and the tools that are
Several
out
of the quilts back here on the wall are my skill builder projects,
there. Mm-hmm.
and they helped me understand the software and the machine so much. I did them without the machine because it took us 7 weeks to get the first machine in, and then another 7 weeks to get the upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
So I had time to play in standalone mode and understand the software and learn more. And I did the skill builders in standalone mode
Mm-hmm.
and watched the videos over. What it bought me was it took the 20 years of long arming that I had done manually and brought me up to speed on how I could use that knowledge in the computer
Mm-hmm.
to tell the computer how to push the machine around.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, everybody has their own favorite pattern designers. Mine is Nancy at Wasatch Quilting. I
Mhm.
belong to her master's club, and I get $25 for a month, and I get 50 patterns every month, versus the $10 a pattern or more that you pay for things. And she lays them out into beautiful designs for specific quilts, which we occasionally do get in that quilt, but we can also adapt, and find your favorite. It doesn't need to be my favorite. Nancy happens to be mine, but find who is your favorite and look for the clubs and the videos and the whatnot that they do, because you figure out how it is that they do what they do, and you grow.
It teaches you how to think differently, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yes.
Just seeing how, oh, here's the new masters, and yes, it's a collection of patterns, but then she shows you how she laid out these patterns to quilt this quilt.
Mhm.
And it makes it sinks in after a while. I'm never going to be at his level, but I learned so much just from being part of her little group and watching her little videos that she does. There's always people out there who are better than you, and it's not a failure to watch them, learn from them, ask for their help. As one of you mentioned earlier, you learn more from making mistakes than you'll ever learn in school.
Did somebody ask a question?
Well, we've got a couple comments. I don't have a,
Okay.
what was the name again for the quilt patterns from Nancy?
It's Wasatch Quilting.
Did you say it was called the Masters Club? Is that your
Yeah,
name?
I belong to her Masters Club. She also has the Artisans Club, which is a smaller grouping, but I happen to belong to her Masters Club. The other nice thing, if you belong, you can go back and buy the previous months, however far back. She's got like a decade or more of them. You can still buy them at the $25 a month price. So
you can never have too many patterns.
Right, you can't have too many patterns. I mean, we're up to 6,100 people, and we still have most of our paper pantos in the other room here, which I'm still trying to find the time to get through, figure out which ones we need to digitize or find out there digitally or whatever, so we can pitch them or sell them to somebody or whatnot. But
I drew a bunch of patterns that I've been slowly getting over to digitized. It takes some time to do that.
Yeah, we don't digitize anything that's under somebody's copyright, but we do have some they're 20 plus years old and you can't buy it anymore.
Right.
But also back then when we were pushing 500 patterns, I knew them all. I knew what we had. I knew which little cubby hole it was in and whatnot. With 6,100 patterns, forget it. No concept.
Thank goodness for keywords and
keywords
right?
and tags.
Yep.
And that's in the spare time going through and putting extra tags and stuff. It is always a very useful thing to be doing. Things, whatever, because they come with tags on them most of the time, but it's not necessarily what you think of when you think of that pattern. And so being able to put in custom tags, or I want this in my holiday grouping or my patriotic grouping or whatever.
But you were asking about my other support systems, and besides the teachers, it's my customers. When my customers bring in a quilt top and they're like, I really don't like this, I'm just going to give it to charity after it's quilted. And I will look at them and go, can I play with it? And then I turn them back a quilt and they stand in front of me and see it for the first time and break into tears. Then I know I've done something special for them. One lady this past week picked it up, took it home, put it on her bed, took photographs, and emailed them to me within 2 hours.
For a quilt that she brought in and said, I hate it.
Yeah. That feels pretty good, doesn't it?
It very much feels so good.
First of all, something people should realize is a lot of people hate their quilt top when they bring it in. And it's because they're too close to it. They've been working on this project and they're like, it's like anything else. I'm so glad that it's done. And so they have a negative connotation attached to their tops.
Right.
And people will often think it's much better when they get it back than when they dropped it off. Having an artist adds that much more to it, and we always try and make it better. We do. But there are these ones like this one that this lady absolutely hated it when she brought it in. And was literally in tears and was going to put it on her own bed
Mhm.
when she took it home.
That's a good insight. I think a lot of people probably don't
Yeah.
realize getting into the especially if they're starting a long arm quilting business, that would maybe be news to them. They wouldn't be aware that there is a large number of people that finish a quilt top and they hate it at the time that they are done. And I think part of that, just a theory, I never did a survey or anything, but I kind of wonder if when you finish a quilt top, there's something deep inside where you're thinking that it's going to be like the beautiful quilts you've seen. But those in your mind, those are all finished quilts that have they're quilted, right? So you finish your quilt top and you're expecting a thing of beauty, and it isn't a thing of beauty yet because you have not
Mhm.
completed the quilt.
I think that's some of it. And some of it is just, like I said, you've been staring at the
And
same
fatigue.
project for, it's fatigue. You've been staring at
Yes.
the same project for 2-3 months, making this top, however long it takes you. And
And the
you get
picture
tired
that
of
you
it.
guys are painting here is one of the amount of motivation that you receive from the appreciation of the customers that you're making these quilts for. And that's something that I don't think we hear as much as we need to. That's every bit as much of a motivator as, the people around you that are not the customers. And I appreciate you guys bringing that part of it up.
We are definitely over time, but it's been a pleasure to
Yes,
have you here.
it has.
Give me the name of our furriest companion there. I can't pronounce it.
It's Dougal.
Dougal.
Dougal, Vivs, and Russ. And if people want to look you guys up online or on, I think you mentioned Quilts on Facebook, how can they find you?
It's Bear's Quilt Shop. There's only 2, I believe, in the country. We're the one in California.
All right.
Bear's Quilt Shop.
Fantastic.
And I'm out on Facebook as Russ Lee.
Russ Lee.
Yep, you can find him through our Facebook page pretty easily.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your story.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well,
I
you're
think
welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
I think it will definitely help some people as they are trying to figure out, the things that they can do to be successful
Mhm.
and to follow their dreams.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
you.
Have a nice evening.
You take
Thank
care.
you. You guys too.